Hi everyone, our focus today will be on the cosine function. So quick review, cosine is the ratio of the adjacent side to the hypotenuse. And typically we abbreviate this to cosine of our angle theta is equal to adjacent ADJ divided by hypotenuse HYP. So just so you know, if you see ADJ labeled on any sides in this video, it represents the adjacent side, and HYP would represent the hypotenuse. So for our warm-up, in this triangle below, we want to find the ratio for the cosine of angle A and the cosine of angle B. So the letter is your angle of reference. So first we're going to use cosine of angle A. So label the sides according to their relationship to angle A. 7 would be the opposite side. 24 would be the adjacent side. And 25 is the hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. Okay, so for cosine, we need the ratio of the adjacent side to the hypotenuse. So we would write cosine of angle A is equal to 24 over 25. Okay, I'm going to take a second and redraw this triangle just down below, because when we switch angles, our labels have to switch as well. So the numbers stay in the same place. When I say the labels switch, now that we're using B as the angle of reference, 24 becomes the opposite side because we go across the triangle to get there. 7 is now the adjacent side. And 25 is still the hypotenuse. So for angle B, the cosine is the adjacent side, or the hypotenuse, or 7 over 25. Okay, next we have a couple of quick warm-up questions using the scientific calculator. So either your handheld one or the Desmo scientific calculator. If you need to use your phone, you're going to have to remember to type this in a little bit differently. So if you're using an actual scientific calculator, just make sure that you are in degree mode. And know that if your answers don't match up with mine, either you've typed it in incorrectly or you might not be in degree mode. So cosine of 25 degrees rounded to 3 decimal places would be 0.906. Remember, if you're doing it on your phone, turn your phone sideways, okay? Then type in 25 and then press that little cosine key. All right. Cosine of 72 degrees is 0.309, and the cosine of 37 degrees, it's 0.799. So check it out. If you come up with something different, then make sure that you ask. Okay, next we're going to use the cosine function to find the length of a missing side in a right triangle. Okay, remember that we want to round side lengths to the nearest tenth. So that's 1 decimal place. Okay, so we're going to set it up, find an angle whose measure that's known other than the 90 degrees. I've got this angle of 35 degrees. And for that 35 degree angle, this side with the X is the adjacent side. And this side with the 20 on it is the hypotenuse. That's how I know I can use cosine, because the cosine, cosine of my 35 degree angle will be equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, or cosine of 35, once I put those labels in, would be x over 20. Okay, we've technically got a proportion. To solve it, set up your ratio by putting cosine of 35 over 1. And then remember, to solve a proportion, we cross multiply. So take x times 1, and we get x. Along the other diagonal, take 20 times the cosine of 35. Right, if you're working with a scientific calculator, you can go ahead and type that in. And when we round to 1 decimal place, it should round to 16.4. Okay, if you're using your phone, you have to type things in a little differently. Type in 35, then press cosine. And next, you want to type in 20 or times, and then press 20 and hit equals. So type in 35 cosine, then hit times, then type in 20, and then you have to press the equal sign. And you'll see 16.38, so it does round to 16.4. Okay, in our second example, we're still going to use cosine to solve for x, but this time notice that x is along the hypotenuse. So we've got the hypotenuse. The 12 is labeling the adjacent side still, so we can still use cosine, just that this equation is going to take an additional step for us to solve. So set it up. You have to be taking the cosine of an angle. So we have cosine of our angle of 52 degrees is equal to adjacent, the 12, over x. So adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, put that cosine of 52 over 1, and then cross multiply. You get x cosine of 52 is equal to 12. Okay, next, take and divide both sides by the cosine of 52 so that we get x by itself. So you have 12 divided by cosine of 52. Over here, they divide out. Now, if you've done it correctly, it should come out to be 19.5. Okay, on your phone, again, it's going to be a little bit different. So clear out anything that's on your phone already. You're going to press 12 divided by, so let me write a note here, on phone. 12, then divided by, and then we want to type in 52, then press the cosine key, and then press equals. And you'll see 19.49, and that's how we round to 19.5. Okay, finally, in our last two examples, we're going to use cosine to solve for a missing angle measure. We're going to be using the inverse trig function, which sometimes students just call it cosine -1, to help us find the angle measure. And we're going to round to the nearest whole number. Round to the nearest whole degree. Okay, so for example 3, check out my sides. 14 is the adjacent side. Okay, 22 is the hypotenuse. So we can set it up, cosine of our angle theta equals 14 over 22. So we have to do a total rewrite when we're solving for an angle. So it becomes theta equals the inverse cosine, cosine -1 of 14 divided by 22. Now you could reduce that fraction, but you don't really have to. To get the inverse cosine, you're going to press second and cosine on your scientific calculator and on your phone as well. Okay, so if you do that in your scientific calculator, you press second, cosine, and then type in 14 divided by 22 and hit enter on your phone. Alright, so on your phone, make sure everything's cleared out from the last problem. But you are going to type in 14 divided by 22 and hit equals. Alright, then press the second key. So second, and then press that cosine -1 that pops up. You don't have to press equals after that in this one, it'll do it right away. And you'll see 50.47 which to the nearest whole degree would round to 50 degrees. We don't round up to 51 in this case. Okay, this is our last one of this type. So here's my angle theta. 15 is the adjacent side. 17 is the hypotenuse. All right, so we are still using cosine. So it'd be cosine of some angle theta equals 15 over 17. Rewrite it as theta equals cosine -1 of 15 divided by 17. Okay, whatever version of your calculator that you're using, type it in and you should end up with 28 degrees. Okay, for homework, you're going to work on the practice assignment that's posted in Classroom for you.